Now, listeners, um, the opening card, we saved the best for last, depending on if you're a fan of these gentlemen. Marvin Vettori keeps his middleweight ranking position by defeating Roman Dolidze in a close contested bout. Um, Judges gave it to Marvin Vettori. I actually disagree with this decision. I thought Roman Dolidze did enough to win. I scored it 29-28. I thought Roman won the first round, and I thought he won that third round. But somehow the judges, they thought Vettori did enough to win instead. So the fight was close. It was competitive. It had some exciting moments. That was actually the first time I've seen Vettori not be able to attempt to bully some. Well, no, let me take that back. He couldn't do it to Robert Whitaker or Adesanya, but most Vettori fights, he's the one that's opposing his will. He's trying to bully his opponents, and his striking was never superb per se, but it was good enough for him to close the distance and then get a hold on his opponents to drag him to the ground and do what he needs to do. With this Roman Dolidze fight, however, it was a lot different. And I think Vettori, once he got hit in that first exchange, I think he knew right away, like, hey, I can't stand in front of this guy and try to box him because I probably could get boxed and knocked out. I think Roman Dolidze probably has to go back and work on his cardio for sure. And I also think that him and his coaches need to work on his technique as far as striking, because at some point he did keep trying to throw the overhand right and keep trying to throw right hooks. It started to get to the point where Marvin's corner, who's the coach who also coaches Mike Tyson? It's like Rafael Cordero, something like that. Yeah. I guarantee you he was probably like, hey, look, man, you could see the hook and the overhand right coming from a mile away. One thing I didn't like what Marvin Vettori was doing is he kept ducking his head. He kept ducking his head. And he didn't really block while he was ducking. He just kept ducking down. And as you've seen as the fight move along, Roman, he started to throw that uppercut. And I guarantee his coaches saw that too. He was like, they were probably like, hey, look, the uppercut is there. The way he's ducking and not guarding himself when he's ducking, he's bound to get hit. Now, Marvin did get hit by a few uppercuts, but it just wasn't enough to like put him away. So I can't get mad at Marvin Vettori for winning. He did what he needed to do to get the judge's decision. I think Marvin Vettori probably should fight Jaden Cannonier next. That fight makes sense for the middleweight division, and that'll put him in a good position. Roman Dolidze, I will probably say, why not give him? You could give him an opponent like Kevin Gastelum, or maybe you could give him who's a good lower ranked opponent at middleweight? Sean Strickland.
Sean Strickland? Yeah, I can see that. Oh, what about the person he just beat in the beginning of the year? I can't remember his name right now.
Who beat who? What are you talking about?
Sean Strickland came in on short notice early in the year and fought somebody.
Oh, that was at light heavyweight. He fought a dude at light heavyweight.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, no, never mind. Well, no, Sean Strickland would be a good move. I think Roman Dolidze did a good fight. I think Roman Dolidze did a good job in this fight. I thought he fought well, but obviously he didn't win. I actually scored the fight for Roman Dolidze as well. I thought that his pressure and his forward motion in the fight, along with his striking, was enough to win him the fight. But there was Marvin Vettori being a tough out. He didn't necessarily get dropped or overly rocked like much of the fight. Even though he did get hit with some hard shots, he never looked out of it. So he was in there and he was performing and putting enough counters in his punches to catch Roman Dolidze catching in order to win the fight. Hats off to Marvin Vettori for winning the fight. I didn't have him winning this fight. I actually had him losing this fight and getting a finish, but he succeeded. And I think that's why he's able to stay like a constant contender, because he is pretty tough and he is pretty skilled. So at the end of the day, you can't take much away from him.
No, you can't. I always said that Marvin Vettori is a tough out. I feel like no matter what, if you're a fan of him and how he acts or not, whatever. But when it comes to the fighting, the dude he's legit. He's any fighter that's fighting him, in my opinion, has to realize get ready to go all 3 or 5 rounds if it's a title fight, and hopefully you have a good game plan because the dude, he's not gonna just take it laying down. He's gonna fight. So he won this fight. Him and Cannonier, in my opinion, I think that's a good fight for him. And I think that's pretty much it for our estimate card, man. Is there anything you kind of want to highlight on the prelims before we wrap up?
Nah, that's about it for me. Like, I thought it was a good card. I'm excited to see this main event next Saturday. And more or less, I'm excited to see the fights that are coming on past next Saturday as well.
So before we wrap the show up and call it a night at this time of this recording, listeners, and before you give out let the people know where they can follow us and stuff, there's a bonus thing I wanted to mention. We don't have to spend too much time on it, just maybe a minute or two. Conor McGregor and Michael Chandler. So their fight looks like it might be a reality. Rumor is they might fight at AT&T Stadium, but who knows? Who gives a fuck right now? Last but not least, do you think Conor's going to go through USADA, or do you think he's going to get an exception? This is kind of the big thing right now, and I think that's kind of the big reason why the fight hasn't been announced yet.
So hold on, wait. They're talking about giving him a complete exception?
No, they're not. Nobody's come out and officially said that. That's just the speculation from people who are in the MMA world and community that this may be a real thing, but nobody's officially said that's what's going to happen. Dana White refuses to comment on it. USADA has come out responding to Conor, but it has nothing to do with him getting an exception. So I think this is kind of an important talking point because even though that Conor already came out and said this fight will be at welterweight, which favors him and gives him the advantage over Chandler, if he's able to go in there and compete without really going through the USADA program,
yeah, that's not a good look. No matter how you cut that, it's not a good look.
Yeah, that's it. That's the interesting thing to me about this. It is. Now, I don't think he's doing it because he needs to juice and be on steroids and be like Alistair Overeem. But I think that from what I could understand, I think after the leg break or whatever that he had in the last Poirier fight, part of like the recovery and healing and rehabilitation process, that he had to go ahead and get something like a steroid or PED, whatever, to help heal. Now, I don't know what the legal process is for him to make sure that he's not walking in into fight night in the cage roided up, but this is kind of a real talk. So maybe the listeners and viewers, they might have more insight on it than I do, but I just think it's a little interesting, and I think this is something that probably just, kind of pay attention to as the weeks go along. Because, of course, anything with Conor, the rules are not going to apply the same to him as they are going to apply to Michael Chandler.
What I'll say about the situation, just to kind of leave it on this note, is the rules aren't the same for Conor, but Conor should still have rules.
Okay. So let the people know where they can follow us, man.
You can follow us at the Highly Advised Podcast on Instagram, Highly Advised Podcast, of course, on YouTube and on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you're listening to us at. And you can find us at Advised Highly on Twitter.
Listeners, This is the Highly Advised MMA episode 6. We hope you guys enjoyed. If you agree with us, cool. Share our shit. If you disagree with us, cool. Leave a comment why. Tell us why you didn't fuck with our shit. And all we could do is just ignore your comments. So, and we're just gonna continue and move on until the Highly Advised MMA episode 7. So until the next episode, listeners, thank you for tuning in. We don't respect you, but we do appreciate you. In the words of Spence, or in the sounds of Spence, shasha.
Peace.